The village of Ajwoma was a place where stories lived longer than people. Every path, every tree, every ripple of the river carried whispers of the past. And among those whispers, one name lingered like a wound that refused to heal: Amarachi. Amarachi was once the pride of Ajwoma. She was beautiful in a way that made people pause mid-sentence. Her laughter was soft like evening wind, and her kindness drew people to her like bees to honey. When she married Obinna, a respected farmer with strong hands and a gentle heart, the entire village rejoiced. It was a union blessed by both elders and spirits, or so they thought. But years passed. 1 year became 3. 3 became 7. 7 became 10. And still no child. At first, people were patient. They said, "It will come. The gods take their time with precious gifts." Amarachi believed them. She smiled, prayed, and waited. But patience in Ajwoma had an expiration date. Soon, whispers began. Maybe she offended the gods. Maybe she is barren. Maybe Obinna made a mistake marrying her. The whispers turned into laughter. The laughter into open mockery. At the market, women would shift away from her, as if barrenness could spread like disease. During naming ceremonies, she was made to sit at the back. At festivals, when women danced with their children tied to their backs, Amarachi stood alone, her wrapper empty and her arms heavier than stone. The worst came during the festival of New Yam. As tradition demanded, only women who had borne children were allowed to bless the harvest. Amarachi stepped forward that day, hopeful, desperate. But the oldest woman in the village blocked her path. "Step back," she said coldly. "Your hands are empty. You have no blessing to give." The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Amarachi stood frozen as shame burned through her veins. She looked at Obinna, hoping, begging for him to defend her. But he lowered his eyes. That night, Amarachi wept until her voice broke. "I cannot live like this," she whispered to the darkness. "I cannot keep breathing this shame." It was then her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "When all doors close, the river listens." The river. Everyone in Ajwoma knew of it. The deep, ancient river that flowed beyond the forest. It was said to be home to a powerful goddess, one who could grant anything, but never without a price. Most people feared her. But fear had nothing on desperation. Before dawn, Amarachi wrapped a white cloth around her body and began the journey. The forest was thick, alive with unseen eyes and rustling shadows. Branches clawed at her skin as if trying to turn her back. But she kept walking. Hours passed. Finally, she reached the river. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. The water shimmered unnaturally, glowing faintly even under the dull sky. The air was cold, yet heavy, as if watching her. Amarachi stepped forward, her legs trembling. "Great Mother of the River," she called, her voice cracking. "I have come to seek your help." The river was silent. She knelt. "I have endured shame. I have endured loneliness. I have endured being treated as nothing. If I have offended the spirits, forgive me. If I am cursed, cleanse me. But please, give me a child." The wind rose suddenly. The water began to ripple. Then, slowly, a figure emerged from the river. She was breathtaking and terrifying at once. Her skin glistened like flowing water, her hair moved as if alive, and her eyes held centuries of knowing. "Amarachi," the goddess said, her voice echoing like a distant storm. "I have watched you." Amarachi lowered her head, trembling. "You seek a child," the goddess continued. "But do you understand what you are asking?" "Yes," Amarachi whispered. "No," the goddess said sharply. "You do not." The river swirled violently around her. "A child is not just joy. It is sacrifice. It is pain. It is loss. And in your case, It will be all three. Amarachi swallowed hard. I am ready. The goddess studied her for a long moment. Very well, she said at last. I will give you a daughter. She will be beautiful beyond measure. She will bring you joy that will silence your shame. Amarachi's heart leapt. But, the goddess added, her voice dropping, you must return her to me when she turns 25. The joy shattered instantly. Amarachi looked up, eyes wide. Return her? Yes. Why? She asked, her voice shaking. The goddess smiled faintly. Because she will not truly be yours. Amarachi's chest tightened. Refuse, the goddess said, and you will remain as you are, empty, mocked, forgotten. Accept, and you will know happiness. But only for a time. Silence stretched between them. Amarachi thought of the market women. The laughter. The loneliness. The nights filled with silent tears. The emptiness in her home, in her heart. 25 years. That was a lifetime, wasn't it? I accept, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The goddess's smile widened. Then it is done. The river surged forward, swallowing Amarachi in a cold embrace. Months later, the village of Ajwoma was shaken with joy. Amarachi was pregnant. The same people who once mocked her now praised her. Women who avoided her now visited daily, bringing gifts and smiles that felt too sharp to be sincere. When the child was born, the entire village gathered. It was a girl. And she was extraordinary. Her skin glowed softly, her eyes shimmered like the river, and her cry sounded almost like music. They named her Nwanioma, Good Woman. Amarachi's life transformed overnight. Laughter returned to her home. Songs filled her mornings. Obinna carried the child with pride, his silence from years past forgotten as if it never existed. For the first time in years, Amarachi felt whole. But deep inside her heart, a quiet fear lived. The promise. Years passed quickly. Nwanioma grew into a child who seemed touched by something beyond human. She was wise beyond her years, kind, and strangely drawn to water. She could sit by the river for hours, staring into its depths as if listening to something no one else could hear. Mother, she once asked at age 10, where do people go when they belong somewhere else? Amarachi's heart skipped. What do you mean? She asked carefully. Nwanioma shrugged. Sometimes I feel like I'm not entirely here. Amarachi forced a smile. You are my daughter. You belong here. But even as she said it, the words felt fragile. As Nwanioma grew older, her beauty became legendary. Suitors came from distant villages, hoping to win her hand. But she turned them all away gently. I am waiting, she would say. For what? They would ask. She would simply smile. Years slipped by like water through fingers. 25 approached. Amarachi tried to ignore it. She buried the memory deep within her, refusing to let it surface. She convinced herself it had been a dream, a desperate illusion. But on the eve of Nwanioma's 25th birthday, the air in Ajwoma changed. The river grew restless. That night, Nwanioma came to her mother. Mother, she said softly, I need to go to the river tomorrow. Amarachi's blood ran cold. No, she said quickly. There is no need. Nwanioma smiled gently. There is. Amarachi grabbed her hand. You don't understand. I do, Nwanioma interrupted, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I have always understood. Amarachi froze. What are you saying? Nwanioma knelt before her, taking both her hands. I was never truly yours, mother, she said softly. But that does not mean I did not love you. Tears spilled down Amarachi's face. No, she whispered. No, I won't let you go. Nwanioma's expression softened. You made a promise. I don't care. Amarachi cried. I will break it. Let the goddess come for me instead. Nwanioma shook her head slowly. It does not work that way. The next morning, the river called. Amarachi clung to her daughter as they walked through the forest, her grip desperate, unyielding. I won't let you go, she kept repeating. But when they reached the river, the water was already rising. The goddess emerged once more, unchanged, eternal. You have kept your part, she said. Amarachi fell to her knees. Please, she begged. Take anything else. Take me. But not her. The goddess's gaze shifted to Nwanioma. Are you ready? She asked. Nwanioma nodded. Then, she turned to Amarachi. Mother, she said gently, look at me. Amarachi lifted her tear-streaked face. And in that moment, something shifted. Nwanioma's form shimmered. Her skin became translucent like water. Her eyes deepened into endless pools. Her voice echoed with the same ancient power as the goddess. I am not just your daughter, she said. I am the river's child. Amarachi gasped. The goddess did not give you a child, Nwanioma continued softly. She gave you herself. The world seemed to stop. I came to experience life as human, she said. To feel love. To understand pain. And you gave me that. The goddess smiled faintly. You see now, she said to Amarachi. You were never cursed. You were chosen. Amarachi's tears fell silently. Will I ever see you again? She whispered. Nwanioma stepped closer, placing a hand on her cheek. Whenever you stand by the river, she said, I will be there. Then, slowly, she turned and walked into the water. The river embraced her. And she was gone. Years later, Amarachi became a different kind of legend in Ajwoma. Not the barren woman they once mocked, but the woman who loved a goddess. Every evening, she sat by the river, watching the water shimmer under the setting sun. And sometimes, just sometimes, the river would ripple gently, as if whispering back. The river had been quiet for years. Too quiet. In Ajwoma, people had learned not to speak of it too much. Not after what happened to Amarachi. Not after the day her daughter walked into the water and vanished like mist. But silence does not erase fear. And the river never forgets a promise. Amarachi was no longer the woman she used to be. Her laughter had disappeared. Her beauty had faded into something harder, sharper. The villagers no longer mocked her, they avoided her. Because sometimes, at night, she would stand outside her hut, speaking to someone no one could see. Come back to me, she would whisper into the darkness. I'm still waiting. 25 years had passed since Nwanioma left. But something strange began to happen. The river started rising. Not flooding, no. Watching. The water would creep closer to the village at night, then retreat before dawn, as if testing its boundaries. Fishermen began to disappear. At first, it was one man. Then two. Then 5. Their boats were always found, empty, gently rocking on the water. No struggle. No blood. Just silence. One evening, the elders gathered. This is not ordinary, said the oldest among them. The river is angry. Another elder shook his head. No, not angry. He looked toward Amarachi's hut. It is calling. That same night, Amarachi had a dream. She stood at the riverbank again, just like years ago. The water shimmered, glowing softly. And then she saw her. Nwanioma. But something was wrong. Her eyes were darker. Deeper. Endless. Mother, she called. Amarachi ran toward her. My child. But as she got closer, the water around Nwanioma began to twist, turning black. Why did you forget me? Nwanioma asked. Amarachi froze. I didn't, she started. You left me there, Nwanioma said, her voice echoing unnaturally. You went back to your life, while I remained. The river roared. I was alone. Amarachi shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, I came every day. I waited for you. Not enough, Nwanioma whispered. Then suddenly, hands burst out of the water. Dozens of them, dragging Nwanioma down. Mother, help me, she screamed. Amarachi lunged forward and woke up. She sat up, gasping. Her heart pounded violently. It's not over, she whispered. The next morning, another fisherman went missing. This time, it was Obinna. The village erupted into chaos. Amarachi ran to the river, her feet barely touching the ground. When she arrived, she saw his boat drifting near the shore. Empty. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. The memory hit her like lightning. The promise. The goddess had said, asterisk, she will not truly be yours. Asterisk. But what if? What if the river wanted more? That night, Amarachi made her decision. She wore the same white cloth she had worn 25 years ago, and she returned to the river. I know you're there, she shouted. The wind rose instantly. The water began to churn. I gave you my child, she cried. Now you take my husband too. What do you want from me? The river exploded upward, and the goddess emerged, more terrifying than before. You speak as if you're a victim, the goddess said coldly. Aren't I? Amarachi snapped. The goddess's eyes flashed. You made a bargain. I fulfilled it. No, the goddess said sharply. You only fulfilled half. Amarachi's body went cold. What do you mean? The goddess stepped closer. You returned the child, she said. But you never let her go. Silence. The truth hit like a blow. All those years, sitting by the river, calling her, longing, refusing to move on. You held on to her spirit, the goddess continued. You tied her to the human world. Amarachi shook her head slowly. I just loved her. And now, the goddess said, her voice rising like a storm, she is trapped between worlds. The river roared violently. She cannot fully return to me, the goddess continued, and she cannot live among humans. Amarachi's knees buckled. No. And so the river takes, the goddess finished. To restore balance. Suddenly, the water split open. And Amarachi saw them. The missing fishermen. Obinna. All beneath the surface, unmoving, suspended like shadows. And among them, Nwanioma. But she was no longer radiant. She looked broken. Her body flickered like unstable light. Her eyes filled with pain. Mother, she whispered weakly. Amarachi screamed. What do I do? She cried, turning to the goddess. Tell me what to do. The goddess watched her carefully. There is only one way. Amarachi didn't hesitate. Anything. You must take her place. Silence. You must belong to the river, the goddess said. Completely. Amarachi's breath trembled. And them, she asked, pointing at the trapped souls. They will be released, the goddess replied. And my daughter? The goddess's gaze softened, just slightly. She will live. Amarachi looked at Nwanioma again. Her child. Suffering. Because of her. Tears fell quietly down her face. I caused this, she whispered. Then slowly, she stood up. I will do it. Without waiting, Amarachi stepped into the river. The water swallowed her instantly. Pain shot through her body, sharp, burning, unbearable. But she didn't stop. I'm coming, she cried, reaching for Nwanioma. As she touched her, everything exploded into light. Moments later, the river calmed. The glow returned. Soft. Peaceful. The trapped bodies floated to the surface alive. Gasping. Crying. Obinna among them. But Amarachi was gone. At the edge of the water, Nwanioma stood. Human again. Whole. Alive. She looked at her hands, trembling. Mother, she whispered. The river shimmered gently. And for a brief moment, A figure appeared beneath the surface, smiling, watching. Years later, the story changed. People no longer spoke of Amarachi as a barren woman or a grieving mother. They spoke of her as something else, something greater, the woman who became the river. And sometimes, when the water rises slightly at night, it is not anger, it is not hunger, it is protection. Because Amarachi is still there, watching, guarding, waiting. And this time, she will never let anything take her child again.